What does Islam signify for the people today, did you say?
In the future.
In reality, I think we should not be talking about the ummah or society or state, because the message of Islam is always for the individual. Even in the Quran also talks to the individual. It's not talking to the state or the ummah or the society. It's talking to the individual, to your heart. It is because of the bashar that God announced a very important announcement which He never made before. It's the first time God made an announcement calling the angels, saying to them, Inni khaliqun basharan min salsalin min hama'in masnun. From dust, from sounding clay. And then later on He said, فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ, and when I have completed, fashioned him, وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, I breathe into him of my spirit. This is important. The bashar is a very important part of us, because all wahi coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to the individual man. It is to the heart, it is to the qalb, it is to the aql, the intellect, it is to the fu'ad, a mixture of both. I remember which I said many years ago, I think in 1970s, Man lam ya'ni ta'rikh fi sadrihi lam yadri hul wal aishi wal murrihi wa man wa'a akhbar man qad mada adafa a'maran ila umrihi. All these things, I think the Quran has so many different surahs, ayahs and so on, all referring to this kind of what you call message to the individual, that you must don't do. In fact, if you do, you cannot. If you continually do wrong, we will just get rid of you. Remember, no, he lived for 950 years until finally God said to him, "No, stop now. You've already said enough. You must now make an ark and get ready to get in, because I'm going to open the gates of the sky and the earth, water, destroy it. And for you to remember." You see? But in the Quran, all the stories of the Prophet, it's like that. He said, for example, to establish religion, but don't make additions to it. And aqimuddin wala tatafarraqu fihi. And this tatafarraqu, the prophets in the past, they did that, and they did not add. Talk about the fact that God's message is directed to the individual, to his bashar, his heart, his qalb, and his aql, his fu'ad. When the qalb receives wahi, it has a certain power so strong that it cannot be prevented. This power is directed to the aql for action. That aql must take action. The aql acted by causing the internal auditory senses, agitating it, and inside the internal auditory senses. And this internal auditory senses passes that on to the external organ, the ears. And the Prophet heard God's voice. in his own voice, of course. In other words, God converted his voice into the voice of the prophet, so that the prophet will understand and will convey it. I think that in the case of the Prophet Muhammad, it's all like that also, but more. There was at one time or some time in which he actually heard God's voice, not his voice. That's why he said, I can't stand it. He sort of was sweating. He sort of was about to faint. And people, his companions, asked him, what do you feel? He said, it's like the ringing of bells. I can't stand it, he said. That means God is speaking to him in the voice of God on earth. Of course, the voice of God on earth. I wrote somewhere some time ago, but I said that to the learned Muslims, history should become fardu ain and no longer fardu kifaya. You see, because I said that history is very important for us, provided we understand by history that tarikh, not history in that Hegelian sense, you see, or in the Orientalism sense. We understand the reports of the past Muslims who tells us about what happened to them, who tells us about Islam, because the extreme intelligence can repeat everything that we say and try to make use of it and confuse it. But I think not this. It was dated at the time of writing that lexicon, at the time when the Prophet was preaching to the Jahiliyyah, and therefore the words in that kind of lexicon is the most authoritative, because the changes to the language have not yet happened. So it's from that lexicon I explain what that lexicon says is the meaning of Islam to be defined in a lexicon. It says that the root word of this Islam, from which all the other meaning is salima. From salima, what does salima mean? It means peace. And then from salima you get salam, security. From salam you get salama. So salima, salam, salama, it all talks about peace, security, safety. And it did not define Islam as submission. This is later on the Orientalists brought this thing, so as to make Islam compared with the other religion. They also submit, they say like that. No, it meant peace, security, safety. And then, supposing you take that word salima as a grammatical form, as a verbal form, then what does it mean? Just now, salima is as a noun, not as a verb. But as a verb, what does salima as a verb mean? It means, according to that lexicon, al-istislam li-amrillahi ta'ala wal-qubul li-amrihi. Al-istislam. What is this istislam? So we have to again explain this istislam. It is self-surrender. So you can see the definition of Islam is more peace, security, safety, and the doing of it is with the help of your religion. So I think that one, you cannot change that. I don't believe that can be spoiled by this so-called artificial intelligence. It's impossible, because the Muslims are taught this, so that they're all not really ignorant as individuals, Even here, I suppose people in the street, they will not know these things. They are ignorant a lot, but there is in their hearts a certain ma'rifah. They will understand if there is some kind of crookedness somewhere, they will know. Yes, I remember this because earlier than 1970s, I was doing some research in a certain village in Pahang. And this village of fishermen, and they come every day, they go to the sea getting fish, they mend the nets, and the boats, and so an Orientalist arrived. He was a disciple of Massignon. Massignon is the originator of this Orientalism. This man, he said in the newspaper, he called a newspaper, he said the Muslims don't understand Islam because they don't speak Arabic. Here, people here, they know nothing about Arabic, but they don't know Islam. They are just like parrots. They talk in that village. And then that night, in the small mosque of that village, I also joined them in the Maghrib, after prayers and so on. And then I got up, I said, you know what these people have said to you, about you, in the newspaper? Yes, they said, because the newspaper in those days, it was written in the Arabic script, but in Malay, in Jawi, they say, Arabic script. So these people can read. So they were very upset. But I told them, don't worry, these people don't know. They don't know anything. They are wrong. And then I'm going to prove to you that they are wrong. All right? They were listening. I said, do you know the meaning? The meaning? Allahu nurus samawati wal ard. They said, all right. I said, I'll translate it in your language. I said, Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. You understand? They understood. So I said, I want to ask you a question. Is it this light? Then is it this light? Then, and then is this tomorrow you have the sun coming up light? Is it this one? That means you understand. That means everyone has got some ma'rifah to understand this. They cannot confuse Allah nurus samawati wal ard with all these things. They understand these are those simple fishermen. How do they know all this? I mean, therefore, there's some ma'rifah Allah has for individuals, and He made sure that they have got it, and that it will be kept firm, and it cannot be played about and twisted. Alhamdulillah. It must be on the individual. I mean, if, speaking about principles, then the individual therefore must be taught Islam properly by those learned in Islam. The problem will come, who are these learned in Islam? Well, I'm sure every Muslim society, there is always some who can teach. Never mind, it doesn't matter, they don't have to be teaching higher level people, but even simple people, let them teach. Let them emphasize that. As I was saying, the Holy Quran itself, Allah speaks to the individual. I mean, this, therefore, what I seem to be emphasizing tonight is that we emphasize individual rather than state and society and ummah as such. That is, if he wants to be corrected. If not, that's how the problem begin of the spread of false knowledge. For example, there's that verse which says, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا وَالنَّصَارَى وَالصَّابِئِينَ وَالْمَجُوسِ وَالصَّابِئِينَ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ أَجْرُهُمْ لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. That verse has been very much misinterpreted because it includes all these other main big religions. Al-Ladina Hadu, Judaism, Wal-Nasara, Christianity, Wal-Majus, the Zoroastrians, and Wal-Sabi'in, that one rather vague. It seemed to include all kinds of different people. But then that verse, after the words in Al-Lazina Amanu, then the commentator puts in brackets in the Quran. I think that is wrong, because if they put like that, then it means it refers to us. Because if you say in Al-Lazina Amanu in the Quran, it refers to we are all the Muslims. But I'm saying that it does not refer to us. You can see, I said, if you understand a little bit of logic, in Alladina Amanu, Walladina Hadu. So it is all connected with, you can see already that it's not referring to us. And therefore you have to understand history. I said, in history is the Munafiqun who lived in the time of the Prophet, who were Munafiqun. But later some of them became Muslim. It's referring to those people. The Munafiqun who became Muslim. And Alladina Amanu. Walladina Hadu. The Jews also, provided they are also good people, Amal Khair, and then you have that eight categories of people to help. If they do all that, if they are good people, then their reward is with Allah. وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. It means that we are already, if you use the word tolerance towards the others, we do admit that some of these people, the Jews, the Christians, the Zoroastrians, and the Sabians, some of them are really good, they believe. And yet, for example, therefore we are not, we do not condemn them to hell, as it were. We are saying that some of them can be good people. Some of them are our friends even, we can see. And they help, they do all kinds of things. If they are like that, then their reward is with God. And the reward that God gives them, of course, is not the same as the one given to... There must be different. These people, Alladin Yahud, Wan Nasara, and so on, they don't believe in the Quran. They don't believe in the Prophet Muhammad. They don't believe in the Yawm al-Akhir as such. And so, in other words, there are things that they don't have Iman in. Therefore, obviously, their position is not the same as ours. If we have Iman and so on. Also, the importance, the role of language. Obviously, that is very important. The language that we use and how we use that language. Because you can't just, without having a proper language. My experience here, that already is proof of the truth of what I say. I was sent here I was only about 5 years of age. My father has got relations to some people here, so they sent me here in order to be raised up in English, because I was born in Indonesia. Indonesia was their language, used the Dutch, and the Muslims, of course, are very influenced by that. Here it is English. They are also influenced by that too. And so, in other words, from small, I was living with some of my uncles who is related to my father. They were people who come from the royalty of this country, especially Johor in the south. And therefore they have big libraries in their homes. And in those days the libraries were all written in the Arabic script. Although I was very small, of course, I don't know it. But gradually, as I lived and stayed with them, I began to learn how to write, looking at the manuscripts. And then I began to understand the sounds. But I went on talking and also make some poetical little interpretations. So that draws the people. That's why they listen. That's what I said, that the individuals are the ones that spread. It's not the state.